Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing Mono Black, but it's a slightly different Mono Black to what used to be popular with the whole Khan, Leyline, Helm of Obedience combo, that sort of thing, with lots of Urza Saga and stuff. We are a good old-fashioned Mono Black beatdown sort of deck. And I've certainly played decks a little bit like this in the past. But the thing is, in Legacy right now, one of the best things you can be doing is playing the 4-card combo of Reanimate, Orcish Bowmasters, Grief, and Troll of Khazad-dûm. Between this, you have the ability to generate enormous pressure, incredible hand disruption, or just stifling the opponent's ability to play the game they want to play with cantrips and things, as well as being able to ping off little things. So that's pretty much what I think is one of the best things you can be doing in Legacy right now. And a lot of the top decks like the Blue-Black Scam and Shadow are all leaning into this sort of technology. So we are doing the same. Also, it should be noted that Troll of Khazad-dûm allows you to play a lower land count deck without any real issue, because this can just go and find you the land you need. So that's quite exciting. So I did mention Shadow just now, and we are a Mono Black Shadow deck. So we are using Reanimate, Agadeem's Awakening, Dismember. These sorts of things, as well as our opponents hitting us, are what we're going to use to try and cast our Death Shadow. Is this good enough? Do we need more resources to lower our own life total? I'm not sure. We can do a bit of Castle Locthwain, but ideally, in the early game, we can pitch Death Shadows we're not using to our Griefs, and then late game, or mid to late game, we'll actually have a nice big threat that we can deploy. That is the plan anyway. So we've got some other threats in the form of Dauthi Voidwalker. Again, this just shuts off one opponent's line of attack. If they're trying to use their graveyard, we can say no to that. We also have Opposition Agent, which again can stop certain decks from being able to function if they're relying on things like Green Sun Zenith or whatever. We can really slam the door shut on them with these two. And we've got some removal to back it up with, a couple of Dismember, which can be 1 mana removal. It gets our life total low for Death Shadow, but later on we can easily pay the 3 mana, so it's just really effective for that. We have 3 Sheoldred Edict, just a really standout removal spell at the moment, and we have a Fatal Push. So that's 3 2-mana removals, 3 1-mana removals, and obviously we've got the Bowmasters and the hand disruption of Thoughtseize as well, alongside him to Tourach. So we've got loads of ways of interacting with our opponents. Also, Agadeem's Awakening isn't just a way of hurting ourselves. We can realistically cast this for X equals 2, sometimes even 3 if the game drags on. And we've got creatures at all of these CMC points that we can bring back, which is good. Unlikely we're going to cast it for 4, but I suppose stranger things have happened. We do have the Trolls to dig our lands out, and we're not really exposed to Wasteland because we've got 10 Swamps in our deck. We do also have this Dark Ritual to power out some really strong turn 1s. I'm honestly not even sure if this deck requires Dark Ritual, but I think it's quite an explosive way to lead off a game, and we want to test that, and we want to test the Shadow and just see how it all fits together. As for our sideboard, we've gone very heavy into the things we want here. So we have 4 Surgical Extraction. When we want to mess with graveyards, we want to do that. This also lowers our life total. This is a different form of graveyard manipulation. So the Dauthi Voidwalkers can stop cards going into the graveyard. But what Surgical Extraction does against decks like Doomsday, for example, we can hit them with a discard spell and then get rid of all their Doomsdays. And that's going to be a very powerful thing to do against linear combo decks. We have 4 Null Rods. We don't have artifacts in our own deck, and we want to say no to these decks that can just spiral out of control with those artifacts, and Null Rod's pretty good at doing that. We've got another Sheoldred's Edict, just in case people are playing some Merit Laziers or just general creature removal in general. Things like Murktide Regent might be a thing we want to keep off the board. 4 Plague Engineers. This is probably too many, and should only be 3, but I enjoy Plague Engineer a lot. It's very rarely bad. Well, when you're bringing it in, obviously, but like, if you're bringing in any creature matchup, it's very rarely bad because it's probably going to nab one thing and then block something else. But when it's good, it's phenomenal. And then we have 2 Tourach, just a pro-white creature that we might need for some matchups like Initiative, perhaps, and some control matchups. Also, it will strip our opponent's hand. We should be doing all right for our mana count here because we got the Trolls to really push us up through. So yeah, this is a Mono Black Death Shadow deck, trying out something a little bit different, putting some theory into how far you can stretch this really, really powerful black shell. And if you can just play a Mono Black, because I do enjoy a bit of Mono Black, as you've probably guessed on the channel. Alright, remember to like and subscribe, check out the Patreon, the Discord, all these things, and let's play some MONOBLACK SHADOW. We're on the play. What does our hand do here? We've got some Grief Reanimate shenanigans. This seems pretty strong. Our opponent's mulligan to 6 cards, which makes our heavy discard plan look a little bit stronger. So I think we start off with a Grief here. We'll exile. Let's try and work out if we want the Thoughtseize here. We're going to Thoughtseize them twice this turn. Yep, let's just pitch one of our bonus reanimates here. See what you're working with, opponent. Infernal Tutor, Chrome Mox. Alright, we'll take this Infernal Tutor. This is MONOBLACK Saga Storm. So I think we will reanimate this turn on our Grief. And we'll take the other Tutor. The one thing we're kind of missing in this deck is Wastelands. I wouldn't mind having some of those. They would have to come as spell slots, which is kind of awkward. You could run them instead of the... Well, I treat Wastelands quite often as half a spell slot. So if we cut 2 Swamps and the 2 Hymns, we could have Wastelands. Alright. Another Dark Ritual. That's not so helpful, is it? Attack with this guy. I think we're going to go for our Opposition Agent here instead of trying to worry about Thoughtseizing them. We'll Thoughtseize them next turn because they're going to need more resources. They're probably just on there as a Saga plan, although the Thoughtseize could take away one of their artifacts to make their Saga less potent. This is a mana tree search as well, so we will get to find something from our opponent here. Yep, so just going for a nice big as a Saga here. They'll have to use their Vault of Whispers to activate their Saga here, which isn't the worst for us. There's a Vault of Whispers. Let's activate our Dark Ritual here. Play an Opposition Agent. So if they make a token, it's going to be a 1, 2, 3 power guy. So that is bigger than our Opposition Agent right now. Orcish Bowmasters. Certainly not opposed to that one. Good attacks here. Our opponent's got Chrome Mox and a Mystery card. I think we can probably just Dark Ritual into Thoughtseize into Bowmasters. We'll take that. The second Urza Saga is pretty good here though. Let's play ourselves a Bowmasters. Get to ping them for 1. Yep. So they trade their Lotus Petal for a 3/3. Pretty good trade. We will get our opponent's Urza Saga up to target here. Not sure what we're going to go for. Could be something like a Shadow Spear. Could be just taking a Lion's Eye Diamond out their deck. Or some mana because we didn't really have a lot of that. Okay, so done their Lion's Eye Diamond in response to make their token. Fully on the plan here. What of these do we want? A Hex Parasite is an interesting one. Removing counters off things. Either spell one we can't do anything with. It might just be a Lotus Petal so that we can cast some of our spells. Sure, I'll take this. This allows us to cast 2-drops here. And we've got some pretty good 2-drops in our deck. Alright. So they can double block the Grief if they want to, or they can just keep taking damage. I'll play this, and I'll play this out. And go to attacks. Do I want to trade my Opposition Agent for a Construct token? I don't think so. I'll trade a Grief for a Construct. Nope, they didn't fancy it. There's another Urza Saga off the top. Pretty good draw. If they can find another mana source. Interesting. Not quite where we want to be there. We definitely don't want to endanger our Opposition Agent because this can go and get us the Shadow Spear in the near future. I didn't want to play this Agadeem's Awakening yet because I didn't know if we would be wanting it to hurt our life total or not for the purposes of a... Okay. Interesting. This will become a 2/2. Okay, let me just go to attacks here. This is fine by me. A Dark Ritual from our opponent. This is to activate the Urza Saga here. But we can dismember the guy here. So we still get the trade-off here. I think we'll play this. I'm just trying to think, what actual drops do we have in our deck? Grief is the thing we can draw. I think we'll play this just so it doesn't get discarded now. I'm not going to play the life here. can take our opponent's Shadow Spear so they can't use it, because I'm more worried about them using it than anything else. What do they want to do with their 3/3? A Reanimate. Don't hate that one. Let's play this out. I don't think we need to equip it right now. We can just pass and worry about getting some damage in next turn. We get 6 damage in next turn if we swing with everything. But we might as well just swing with the Grief. Yeah. Right, all of our horrible black stuff did good jobs. Now we have 4 Null Rods in here. That's going to be quite a potent combination to throw into our deck here. I don't really like our removal spells very much. So we've got these, we've got Fatal Push, and we've got Edict. Now we're probably going to want to keep some number of these for the purposes of constructs that our opponent makes. But the Null Rod should shut off their ability to make constructs in a big way. I think the Fatal Push looks good here. Sheoldred's Edict, less so. We'll trim those. We'll end up with one of those. We could play Tourach here because it's hand disruption, or we could play Surging Extraction to mess with some of our opponent's things. But I honestly think our setup here is just really strong. They don't have the most amount of card draw, but they do have all these baubles. So I think that's worth having. Sure. Let's ruin our opponent's day with Null Rod. We do need a land from this deck, from this hand, but it's very, very strong. We have Thoughtseize into potential Null Rod. And we can find the land with a Troll, if we want to. There is a Mox Opal, and a Mishra's Bauble, and a Lion's Eye Diamond, and an Urza's Saga. So if I don't draw a land this turn, the question is, do we try and find the land? So we can Thoughtseize our opponent, or we can cycle to guarantee the turn 2 Null Rod. I think we're going to roll high and go for the Thoughtseize first. Okay, we got Infernal Tutor out of it. Pretty good. So if we can draw a land next turn, we get to put in our Troll. Sorry, not our Troll, our Null Rod, instead of having to use our Troll. Yep, so they have the ability to make a construct token. We did not get there, sadly. Interesting. Okay, so we will Swamp Cycle, and now we will deploy our Troll. A large gentleman indeed. Now next turn we can play the Null Rod and shut off our opponent's ability to do much else for the rest of this game. We are getting a construct here. It's going to be pretty large. It's going to be 6/6. So we can trade the Troll with it, or we can take the 6 and then deploy a massive shadow. But that depends if we get to Null Rod or not. We might just have to be playing. Interesting. So they're making a construct here with 1 mana floating. There's a Shadow Spear. All right. Do I want to trade our Troll for this construct? I don't think so. Well, we can't even trade now because it's so big. So we'll take this and go to 4. We get to deploy a very large shadow here. Kind of awkward. Would have liked to land so we could deploy multiple things, but we do have to deploy the shadow to soak up trample damage here. So we've got a 9/9 against their 8/8, and then the Troll can block the other one, and then we're left with a bunch of resources and our opponent doesn't have any. I think they're going to... No, they didn't crack the bauble. They're just going to use it as damage, effectively. Alright, another bauble. So they have a 9/9 and 8/8 here. We do have to then chump block with our Troll on the 8/8. So this is 5, so we'll take 4 damage if we block the other way. So we have to block this way and this way. Swamp. Turn too late, sadly. I don't think I want to show our opponent any of the good stuff. I think we just concede and go to the next game. We don't want them to know that we're playing 4 Null Rods like an absolute meanie. Do we want some more removal for these situations? I do think the plan of just relying on our Null Rods. We've got 2 removal spells in the deck. No, I'm happy. I'm happy. Let's just make a turn 1 Null Rod. Something else that's nice about this deck is because like so many cards are black, we get our choice of what to pitch to Grief, whereas quite often with like the Carney type decks, if they have to pitch things to Chrome Mox or to a Grief, they may not have enough black cards. Alright, let's be on the play. Let's have a nice hand here. An unplayable hand, let's mulligan. Another unplayable hand. Let's mulligan again. A playable hand? I'll take it. Have to decide what goes away here. I think we get rid of a Grief and a Thoughtseize. Is that right? A Grief and a Thoughtseize, or is it the opposition agent? I don't really want to pitch multiple cards to a Grief. We have double Thoughtseize already. The Troll gets us our third land, but the Thoughtseize are just too important. We have 2 mana here. Maybe it's the Troll that goes. I don't think I can mulligan to 4, looking for Null Rod. Alright, let's see what our opponent's hand is up to. Duress, Hex Parasite, Lion's Eye Diamond, Mox Opal. Do we care if our opponent duresses us? They take our land. That's kind of annoying. I guess we'll take their duress first. And they can play out their whole hand here and blank our other Thoughtseize. But then they're just kind of on Hex Parasite. Going to play out the Parasite. Hex Parasite is a weird choice. Alright. They play out the Chrome Mox so they could do it off of the Opal. Let's draw a Null Rod and put this game away, maybe. We did not draw a Null Rod. We can play this tapped. We're not under any real pressure here. But that can obviously change. Things like Urza's Saga. I always have it off the top, every time. Okay. We'll take 1 from the Parasite. And we can draw a land here, would be nice. Did not draw a land. Yuck. Yeah, this has gone a little bit awry for us. I guess we pass. Yeah, if we'd have kept that Troll and got rid of the Thoughtseize, we'd have been in a much better spot. Oh, bauble. We don't get to be mana efficient and use our Sheoldred's Edict now either. They have Hex Parasite and Urza's Saga combo. So they can keep removing counters from this whenever they want. So I think we have to kill the Hex Parasite. Is that right? So 2 mana for this. And then they pay 1 to remove a counter. Yeah, we can't let them just have the factory here. Just guarantees them an Urza's Saga token every turn. And that will definitely beat us. Yeah, really feeling not having wastelands in our deck. But they're obviously going to be difficult to fit in. They're probably going to remove 2 counters from this instead. X is 2. So this is going to go back. So it still has the abilities though. Because that's how this card works. A Dauthi Voidwalker. It's a spell we can cast. I will take it. Doesn't block particularly well. Attack's okay. I think our opponent's going to have us here. Yep, he's going to keep pooping out constructs until we die. Which won't be very long, because that's what Urza's Saga does, really. A Death's Shadow. It's not very exciting, is it? Put out the Shadow as a 1-1. And we can attack, because our Dauthi Voidwalker isn't doing much else here. At least the Ancient Tomb's hitting them. So what we could do here is we could reanimate the Hex Parasite, which would give us a slightly bigger Shadow and a chump blocker for a turn. But is that actually any good? We could Thoughtseize, do ourselves a slightly bigger creature. But again, that's not really going to cut the mustard, is it? These are both going to be 6/6s. So I think we have to reanimate something. Alright, let's have the Hex Parasite. This will chump block for a turn, and we can take a big hit and let our Shadow be enormous. But they will be able to block it with a Saga of their own, because they're going to have another creature coming off of this. So Hex Parasite doing some work. Our opponent top decking that Saga just after they went Hellbent was really unfortunate for us. If we'd have had just a couple of turns to draw something a bit more business related, we would have been alright. As it stands, they're going to end up with 4 tokens out of this 1 Saga. Alright, so I can attack with both of them. We have to block here, otherwise we die. We take 5. Our Shadow grows. An Orcish Bowmasters. Where were you earlier? So this can get them a Shadow Spear, which they can then equip if they want to. So I don't think we get to attack with our Death Shadow here. We do get to attack with this. Just puts our opponent to 10. And we have this Orcish Bowmasters. Yep, our opponent's going to go to 8 to make another construct. Surprised they didn't I guess they didn't want to grow our shadow. We can ping ourselves with Orcish Bowmasters to make our shadow bigger, which is quite a nice trick. But obviously that depends on what our opponent's going to be putting into play. Alright, there's a 7/7. There's an Ether Spell Bomb. We are dead here if they pop the Spell Bomb, I think. We can block 2 of these and we die because they're 7s. Sure. Yeah, just a bit unfortunate really. Our opponent drew the 1 card in their deck that could win in the game at the one time. Well, they had a couple of turns to draw it, but they drew it straight away. Kind of put us on the back foot and we got a bit stuck on mana there. If we'd have mulliganed slightly differently to keep the Troll and lose the Thoughtseize, we'd have been in a slightly better spot. They wouldn't have been able to get that either Spell Bomb there. But it's always going to be a little bit tricky there. I'm pretty happy with this matchup though. I think with a mono black deck, you should be crushing Saga Storm relatively reliably. Did make me think about wanting Wastelands though. Let's go to round 2. This hand is a little bit slow, but we have some mana. This card's a little bit of a blank, but if we start getting aggroed out, then it's not the end of the world. Because we at least have this Death Shadow to follow up with. A Flooded Strand from our opponent. What flavour of Flooded Strand are we looking at? A basic island into Ponder. Could be like a blue-white control. I don't know. We're going to have a look though. The power of Thoughtseize compels me. What are you working with over there, opponent? And how many things do we want to take this turn? The One Ring, Delighted Halfling. Yeah, quite a lot of annoying stuff here. Truth be told. I don't mind taking the Halfling here. That seems a little bit sad. I don't think I want the Force necessarily. Shall we take the Halfling? Is it in our interest to deploy this Grief now? And if so, what are we pitching? We could pitch this Opposition Agent. Well, that might be useful in a few turns. If we Grief, what are we griefing here? I think we can wait another turn. Because we don't really want to Grief anything in their hand particularly, because it should all be in their hand next turn anyway. So we may as well wait till next turn. We might have better options in terms of what we want to discard, what we want to exile to our Grief. Right, it's our opponent's turn. There's a Misty Rainforest that we knew about. A basic Swamp. Is that what we want? We can deal ourselves 3 more damage if we want to now. Or we can just play out this basic Swamp. Do we just want the Swamp now? Do you want to Grief this turn and try and stop something? Again, I don't think we have to. I think we pass the next turn. We Grief pitching Shadow and have Opposition Agent. Our opponent's deck is full of lands, so I wouldn't be surprised if they found one here. There's an Uro that we knew about. Another Grief, you say? Right, I think we'll cast this by exiling. Is good enough for a Force of Will? No, didn't think it would be. Double Rings. Double Rings, you say? That's pretty scary, isn't it? I think we're pitching the Agadeem's Awakening here. Just take out this other ring. And leave them with Force and 2 blue cards. Then we'll play out this Swamp. And pass. And maybe get lucky with an Opposition Agent, although our opponent has a Force of Will. So they need to go to their main phase before they can cast their spells. There we go. There's an Uro. I found a non-land. I'm okay getting 2 cards out of my opponent for this. Instant Speed Mind Rot. Is that any good to you? Force. Pitching Force of Negation. So I have another Uro in hand. Alright. Sheoldred's Edict. That'll certainly be useful later on. Can nail one of these Uros. This is the exact sort of matchup I would like to have a Orcish Bowmasters in, but sadly we don't have one of those. Alright, so they're getting the Uro. I think we're going to let this one stick in for now and then use our Castle Locthwain. And then we got a higher chance of double spelling on our turn. Whereas if we do this now, we're not being very mana efficient, so we can be mana efficient now to have a better turn next turn. Right, another Castle Locthwain. Another Swamp. Right. I think we have to Edict this on our opponent's upkeep. We've already seen Force of Negation, so we should probably play around that. A non-token creature. I don't think they'll care about this because they can just rebuy it again. I wouldn't fight over this if I were them. Seems a very strange thing to try and fight out. Okay, they're going to put Force of Will on top of their library. And they had a Force of Will in hand. Alright. Pretty awkward. So they're just going to back this up with a counterspell next turn as well. Orcish Bowmasters wouldn't hurt here, but let's take a bite out of crime and hit their hand. Discard a Force of Will and the Euro. Okay, and we can draw a card here. It doesn't affect the clock because this is a 2-turn clock. Our opponent gain their life, draw their card. Uro, still a very potent magic card after all these years. That's a fairy. It's a pretty good one. And a Delighted Halfling, sure. Let's draw a card. A Reanimate. A very awkward card. Orcish Bowmasters. We unfortunately don't get to play at instant speed because of what our opponent has. So we play this. We ping them. They bounce this. They kill us. Yeah. That was a very convincing win from our opponent there. So, let's get some Tourachs in. Sheoldred's Edict can hit Planeswalkers as well. Surgical Extraction for Uro and probably the Life from Loam they have is also worthwhile to me. I think we don't really want Fatal Push in this matchup. Probably do need the Dismembers, but we're probably going to trim on Death Shadow because they're so bad in this matchup. Maybe they're just bad in our deck, full stop. That's certainly a possibility. Actually, if we're boarding out the Shadows, we probably want to board out the Dismember rather than the Push here. So we've got one Shadow in our deck and a couple of Extractions. I think that's fine. We could board in the Plague Engineers because they're a threat, but I think we're okay with where we are right now. This matchup's going to be a little bit tricky because our opponent can just go over the top of us. They've got a very good selection of tools to work with here. Well, it doesn't take much. Like a Bowmasters can just completely pivot the game. Alright, another unkeepable hand. Awkward. What do we have here? We've got Thoughtseize and Grief, but then where are we going? We kind of do need some more mana. Alright, now we have a decent selection of mana. The Tourach can go. I don't think we're going to be doing Grief things this game. Sorry to say. Maybe later. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent. And just curve nicely into our Dauthi Voidwalker. Force of Will. Delighted Halfling. Minsk and Boo. What a horrible selection of Magic the Gathering cards. We can take the Delighted Halfling and hope to cut the Boo out later. And it's quite the risky play. But I think that's what we're going to go for. So the idea is to try and stop this Boo later on down the line. Just want to slow our opponent's roll so they don't get to go Uro into Minsk and Boo in really short fashion. Now obviously we could take the Minsk and Boo, and there's definitely that's not the one. So this Dauthi Voidwalker might snag a Force of Will. Get 2 more cards out of our opponent's hand, and then what? They're cracking their Flooded Strand. They have a Savannah. Did they draw a Swords to Plowshares? Feels like they might have done, which is unfortunate for us, that's for sure. They might have just been cracking it so that they didn't end up with a Flooded Strand underneath our Dauthi Voidwalker because they want the cards to escape Uro with later. So Tundra. Prismatic Ending. Sure. Okay, we have 2 turns to find out this Minsk and Boo. And we'll pass. Maybe we should have taken the Minsk and Boo. But if we take the Minsk and Boo, they get a turn 2 Uro. And then we're just falling behind. I don't know, it's tough. Now, they also didn't have a red source, which is another reason why I was happier to leave them with the Boo. Because I figured they might need several turns to actually find the mana to cast. Alright, no. Ignore me. They just have it. Okay. What do we do now? A Surgical Extraction. That doesn't help. Playing out this Tourach right now is not great. I think we hold up our Fatal Push. I guess we do play out the Tourach now without kicker, and then we have Fatal Push for the Boo, and then we can slam in at the Minsk and Boo with our Tourach and hope that we can get some work done. Yep, Minsk and Boo. I think we take the 4 this turn. Let me do it next turn for the push. This will attack Minsk. This might be good enough for a Force of Will. Alright, let's try it out. Force of Will pitching a Ponder. Alrighty. That's half our life total we're about to lose now. Pre-combat Uro. Let's smash for a bunch here. Let's get rid of this Uro. So we just need to answer this Minsk and Boo. Flood Halfling doesn't really help here. This has got Trample. So there's exactly 7 damage shown without even the Boo activating. Yeah, we just got crushed there. Yikes. I think we definitely should have taken the Minsk and Boo with our Thoughtseize, and that's kind of on us. But they do get to snowball with the Euro. Yeah, I just don't think we played that one very well. I think our opponent still heavily favoured that matchup in general, but I think we definitely could have played that game better. Alright, let's go to round 3. We have Bowmasters. Sorry, we have Thoughtseize into Bowmasters. And we need to find another land for our opposition agent. I think our hand is fine. If Thoughtseize is good in the matchup, then we're doing alright. It's got a pair of them. Also going to have a relatively low life total for the purposes of Death Shadow. Or Reanimate. That's certainly a thing we can do stuff with later on. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent and see what they're working with. High Tide, Force of Will. We will take a High Tide from our opponent. We could take out the High Tide right now, or we could try a Bowmasters. I think I like the Bowmasters plan. Because our opponent's going to need more business than what they've got going on right now. So we'll Bowmasters, and then if that gets countered, we can then reanimate it next turn. There's a Scalding Tarn. Let's try this. Is this worth it? This is going to mess with their Spiral Tides as well. Tide Spirals. Sorry. Which is good enough for 2 cards. Force of Will pitching. Fey of Wishes. Alright. That's basically what we wanted to happen. Dark Ritual. Well, we just get to do everything here. So we get to cast Thoughtseize on our opponent. Mind's Desire and a High Tide. Guess we take the High Tide here. And then we reanimate our Bowmasters. And then instant speed, we can make an opposition agent if they go to crack this fetch. And that should be pretty potent. I imagine they're just going to keep this for the purposes of Brainstorms. But Brainstorm's obviously pretty awkward. Oh, they've fallen right into our trap. I think we take the Mystic Sanctuary here. That makes it harder for them to access these 2 High Tides in their graveyard. We also can't use this Scalding Tarn now. We just get to merrily beat along the way here. Tap little creatures. Let's throw out a Thoughtseize. Take the other High Tide. Leave them with... they've had enough. Fair enough. Alright, I like Surgical Extraction here. I like Tourach. Oh, I don't like it, but I'll go along with it. I dislike our removal spells here, so Fatal Push. And the Sheoldred's Edicts. And the Dismembers. That should be exactly 6 if I've calculated my deck building correctly. Yes. 6 pieces of 6 pieces of disruption in favour of 6 pieces of other disruption. And sure, our deck looks relatively kitted out to play against Spiral Tide. We've got a bunch of hand disruption. We've got Bowmasters. We've got the opposition agent, which can really mess with some stuff. We have 2 mana in this hand. We will keep this. We have a whole bunch of hand disruption. See what we draw here. A land. Okay. Let's evoke a Grief, pitching. I think it's... Oh, this is tough. Is it the other Grief, or are we going to need more hand disruption? I think we might need more hand disruption. I think we're going to pitch this Agadeem's Awakening and hope to draw another land. That hasn't worked out amazingly for us so far. But I believe. Turnabout, turnabout, turnabout. I'd be a fool not to, right? Just mess our opponent's hand up. So we got Island, Island, Scalding Tarn. So our opponent now has nothing going on. Just lands. I will take my 1 mana Hymn to Tourach. A Merchant Scroll. Sure. What are they going to find here? A High Tide? There it is. think we want this Dauthi Voidwalker. I think I would rather have this opposition agent to stop additional tutors. A Death Shadow. That's no good. That's a very good target for griefing. Let's pitch that to the grief and mess with our opponents. A dress down, you say? Sure. We do not get to grief our opponents, sadly. Get to bash for 3, and we have more threat in play, which isn't the worst. I think we just float this guy out now as well. Doesn't have any abilities until our opponent's turn, but that's fine. Shuts off this scoring time preemptively rather than trying to snag it. Because once your opponent knows you have opposition agent, they can play around it a little bit. A brainstorm. No Orcish Bowmasters yet. We haven't got the 4 disruptive creatures in our deck altogether. I'm going to put a Merchant Scroll on top of their library whilst we have an opposition agent in play. That's a bold choice. These Death Shadows do not look like they're very good in our deck. Now, we did play them to test to see if this was viable in Mono Black, and we said that at the top. We are very much learning that may not be the case. Our opponent has this Merchant Scroll now, and we have 9 damage in play. They could do a High Tide line, get rid of our opposition agent, and then cast a Merchant Scroll. Fae of Wishes. That's a 1/4. That keeps them alive for a turn here because they can block our opposition agent. It's a big hit though. Let's say goodbye to the hand. We've got the High Tide and the Mind's Desire. Alright. If we attack for 3 this turn, we have lethal next turn anyway, and this way we can hold up our Dauthi Voidwalker if we need anything like a Brainstorm or whatever, if we feel that's something we want. We still have to abide by the casting restrictions of Mind's Desire, so we can't just cast that in response to what our opponent's doing. But this means if our opponent plays any spell to deal with our opposition agent, then our Dauthi Voidwalker gets a copy of that spell. Alright, so we won that one. It was very convincing. I think Mono Black should be pretty good into these. Death Shadow looked abysmal in this matchup. Alright, let's go to the 4th round. We're playing against Grindstone Cowboy, who sometimes plays Painter, but sometimes plays other things. We're going to keep our hand. We've got a nice curve of Thoughtseize into Bowboys, and we've got the Sheoldred Edict and the Dismember, so we've got plenty of interaction. If we need another mana source, we've got that. If we need a reanimation target, we've got that too. Right, our opponent is back on the old Painter's Servant deck. Alright. I still think we want to Thoughtseize turn 1, unless something else materializes. Let's go for the Thoughtseize. Let's see what our opponent's got for us. Fable the Mirrorbreaker. Get out of here. And the next turn we can ping away their Welder with our Bowmasters. Orcs stronger than Goblins. Everyone knows this. As a Saga was a pretty good draw there. There's a Lotus Petal. I assume we're going to see them both here. Yep. The old aggro Goblin. Right. I think we ping this down now before any shenanigans can happen. Just get rid of this Welder. Have a ping on you, sir. And then we'll pass. We can remove both of their constructs, but that's a lot of value they get from that one thing. Also, interesting to see here is the Wasteland. You don't see that in painted decks very often. It's a Great Furnace. Means their guy gets to be bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4's quite large. A Grief. It's not the most exciting right now, is it? Let's play out a Swamp. We go to attacks. Right, we clearly have something here. We wouldn't be attacking into this face-up Saga. Our opponent has to decide when they want to walk into whatever we have. I don't think it makes a difference if they walk into it now or not. Sure. So, do you want to Thoughtseize our opponent? We want to Dismember them this turn somewhere, and we want to get a land for our Grief. How much life do we want to pay? Is the question. Our opponent's got 2 cards in hand. And I think we pass with all our mana up in case we need multiple removal spells this turn. That's a 4/4. Let's Dismember this. Right, so there's a Saga ticking up. Let's see what they find. They're just going to go straight in for a Grindstone here. They are. A Goblin Engineer. Interesting. I think we are killing off this engineer now, so they can't get the painter, obviously. Okay. We did not draw the land for the grief this turn. Opponent's got one card in hand and it's Wasteland. We don't really have any plays that are any use right now. We can Swamp Cycle this. And then we have to sit back and hope our opponent doesn't draw a Painter's Servant, because that would kill us. We're a Death Shadow deck. We'll take this 5 this time. Now, we probably shouldn't be a Death Shadow deck, but we are one. Right, so drew an Ancient Tomb for turn. Now we can play Grief. This is just a 3-4 menace, a 3-2 menace, sorry. Oh look, the Wasteland we knew they had. And we have to decide what we're doing with our attacks. I think we're attacking for 1 here. And then probably chump blocking and then maybe having to double block this construct. Gross. Yep, they're going to start grindstoning themselves. Because they've got things like Phyrexian Dragon Engine they can hit, as well as just having more food for the next welder they get. There's an engineer. It's going to put Dragon Engine in the graveyard, I suspect. There it is. And just putting it into play straight away. Sure. Alright. We will ping off their engineer here. We'll ping 1 at them, I suppose. We block this and take 4. Agadeem's Awakening. Not the most exciting card, is it? We'll cast a Grief here. So if you're wondering why their token died, it's because they had to sacrifice their artifact. Right, they've got a Khan over there. They've got another Saga there. That's a bit rude. Let's bash them up with some Grief action. I think we're going to play as Agadeem's Awakening as a land tapped. If we find another land next turn, then all the trolls we draw from then on are alive. We should outrace the Saga here. You can wasteland that land. We drew another one. We know what our opponent has here. We're just making guys. So this is lethal in 2 turns anyway, so we don't need to commit our Bowmasters. That way if something weird happens, we at least have another body that can get in the way of something. I don't really know what haste threats our opponent could realistically deploy since the Dragon Engine's already gone. Alright, we got game 1. I would like some Null Rods, please. Also like these Engineers on Goblin is pretty good. Solar Extraction is very nice too. And the removal is very nice. A lot of our deck is good. Death Shadow, we've decided, is not really playable in our deck. And we have to say goodbye to you. Orcish Bowmasters seems pretty good here. Dauthi Voidwalker also seems good. Hymn to Tourach is okay. Thoughtseize is okay as well. It's going to be tough to find what we're putting in for these. We could do something strange and get rid of all of our this sort of disruption and try something along these lines. Don't know if we need as many reanimates. Maybe we can trim 1 reanimate here. I think we need 4 Solar Extractions. But I do want the removal. I do want the way of killing the things, because these can also jump in the way of the Plague Engineers can jump in the way of a construct token and trade with it at the very least. Opposition Agent is very good with all their weldery type shenanigans. Dauthi Voidwalker shuts on their graveyard for welder shenanigans. Maybe it's a troll. I think this deck probably only wants like 3 reanimate, 3 trolls, but we'll see. I think the main thing we don't want in our deck is Death Shadow. Okay. We can mess with their graveyard. We've got some plays here. I think we'll keep this and we'll probably bottom the Agadeem's Awakening here. Because we have the troll. I'd rather have that because it makes our reanimates pretty powerful. Right, no play from our opponent. A Null Rod. We've got a very nice turn 2 ahead of us. We can cycle for a land if we don't need to cast our Fatal Push this turn. That's going to be a Khan. That's a pretty good one. He's going to go for the Liquid Metal Coating line here. Troll Mod's Crypt. Alright. We will still cycle this. Jam one of these Null Rods. They can turn it into a creature and lightning bolt it. That's definitely a play that our opponent can make. We've got some good disruption here, but we do need to find a way of winning the game. Right, they're animating our Null Rod. Are they going to bolt it like we said they would? They're going to plow it, sure. Wonder how they're going to feel about our next turn. So now we're in an awkward position where our opponent, if they have another land, could just lattice lock us. And that's game over. But we don't really have any other plays to make, so here we are. Alright, so we're going to get lattice locked and it should be game over at that point. A powerful one-card combo of Khan the Great Creator and cards in your sideboard. Wow, I didn't go for it. That's wild. Why wouldn't you lattice lock me there? Do you not have it in your sideboard? That's wild to me. I guess they lock themselves out as well, but they have a Khan, so they can just keep plussing on their lattice and attacking us with it. So, oh no, they can't keep plussing their thing actually, because the Null Rod stops them from plussing their Khan actually, doesn't it? Yeah, because the Khan will be an artifact in that situation because of the lattice. Yeah, okay. I'm with it now. Okay, we have an instant speed creature, so I guess we'll hold that back. Alright, Fable's doing some stuff over there. The Ancient Tombs for Khan, as well as having Sagas and Wasteland, is certainly an interesting section of tools. Right, they are activating their Thorn of Amethyst. We will let our opponent attack with these. We can put in the opposition agent and attack their Khan down by blowing up their Saga token when that materializes. A Lotus Petal they're having to pay 1 for. And a Goblin Engineer. Okay. We'd rather they search for this, because if they search for a combo piece, we can just remove it with the extraction rather than playing the opposition agent to eat it. Okay, they didn't search for a combo piece. So now we are slightly punished. Right, let's have our opposition agent. If we draw a land, we can kill this and their thing and then kill their Khan. Okay, this does work. We go to attacks. We attack the Khan. So we're going to make a construct token. So this costs us 2 mana, but gives us 2 mana. And then we get to Fatal Push the construct here. And we can dismember away the engineer. And we can kill the Khan. We don't get to surgically extract this dragon engine. Maybe we should have played the opposition agent in response to the engineer. I guess I just wouldn't search for anything. I think trying to rip their combo away from them was probably okay. So what do we want here? We can have a grindstone of our very own. That's not really going to do anything here, is it? I think we just take the Soul Guide Lantern here. We can at least use that to get rid of their Friction Dragon Engine if they don't activate it right now, which I suspect they probably will. Another Engineer. Alright, we get any artifacts from their life. They can just say no because it's the main trigger. So we're going to take a bash for 2 here. It's going to grow their construct that is now bigger than we can handle. I think our opponent's going to win this one and we're going to have to go to game 3. Let's get rid of this Dragon Engine at least. So I can start making a load of constructs. I think we're done with this game actually. I think we can just go to the next one. I think our opponent was far enough ahead there. Again, I'm missing Wastelands in our deck. I would feel a lot happier with some in our deck. I think we have sideboarded fine here though. I don't think there's any alterations I really want to make. Like, should we be playing things like him, just as a nice 2-for-1? Thoughtseize on the play is clearly better than Thoughtseize on the draw. Maybe we want to change things up a little bit. We kind of need our removal. Null Rod's a given. How much removal do we realistically want? Dismember is quite expensive for what it does in the face of all these construct tokens. No, I think I like what we've done before. Maybe we just need to be a bit more prudent about the hand we keep. What does this hand do? We have 1 mana source. I guess there's a 2nd mana source. We've already seen Wasteland in our opponent's deck. Taking a mulligan. Yeah, interesting. So we get to grief our opponent and possibly put in an opposition agent on turn 1. That could be okay. Or we could put in an engineer on turn 1. But then a Wasteland will shut us down quite hard. Alright, I think we keep. And one of our cards has to go. Is it the Edict here? I think so. So we do Grief, Pitch and Grief here. Painter's Servant, Pyroblast, Simian Spirit Guide. I think we want to just get rid of the Painter's Servant here. I do have a Wasteland here though. So what do we want to... We can either play a Plague Engineer out this turn on Construct, or we can play the Opposition Agent. That's a tough call. It's annoying that let's go on Construct rather than Goblin, but given their hand, I think that's the correct play. Our opponent is heavily favoured in this game, I would say, because they're going to Wasteland us. Oh, they're not going to Wasteland us. Okay, they're just going to go for a Bloodstained Mire. That's good news. That means we might be able to cast a second spell. Sheoldred's Edict. So they are a red-white painter build with Wastelands in it as well, which is a whole bunch of stuff. Now we missed our land drop, they're going to Wasteland us. That's what I would do. Smell blood in the water and go for it. There it is. Boom. At some point they're just going to play a Simian Spirit Guide, and that's going to be pretty bad news for us. So probably play a Mountain this turn and then a Simian Spirit Guide next turn. Right, and there's a Saga. Painter's Servant. Alright, they have a Pyroblast, they can just blow our things up whenever they want. They can also target our lands. This game is very over. A tapped land. Not great. Also, their Urza Saga is ticking down into getting them the Grindstone kill as well. Foeman Mirror Breaker, that's pretty good too. So we need to find a land and kill this painter, otherwise we die next turn. Pretty yuck. Did not find a land. That'll do us. They'll just go and get their combo off. Yeah, we just got mana screwed here, but I think that speaks to a wider problem with the deck rather than us just getting lucky. We got a little bit lucky for sure, but I think our deck configuration has allowed that. So we can't really blame the deck. Well, we can blame the deck, but it's more the clown who built it. He's sat here playing it. But like I said, we're testing things to see what they could work and stretching some limits, and there's going to be fails, and that's what we're looking for today. We're looking for where the deck fails, not where it sort of succeeds necessarily. All right, one more round to go. Well, Bowmasters is like one of the best cards, so I guess we keep. Ancient Tomb. What flavour of Ancient Tomb deck is our opponent? Feels like a Chalice. There's a Chalice, okay. So we have 2 dead cards in hand now. And our Bowmaster is probably not going to be amazing in this matchup. Ah, there's a nice little Dark Ritual for us. It does make me feel good. Alright. Are we a mono red? That's probably going to be relatively effective against us. Spire of Industry. Okay, our opponent's doing something a bit different, which is cool. Patchwork Automaton. That has Ward 2. So we could try and ping this now, or we could wait for our opponents to do something. We can't ping the Patchwork Automaton, sorry, because of the ward. We can ping them now. But because we... Okay. If they play another 1-1, we might be able to kill that. We'll see. We could block this with 2 creatures. You could trade a Bowmaster for their Patchwork Automaton. I don't despise that as a thing we can do. I'll ping them. They are playing their own Orcish Bowmasters, I see. Was not expecting that out of the dedicated artifact deck, but I guess Bowmasters is just pretty good. Alright, we're not blocking this Automaton. Play this out. And I guess it's our turn to ping the Bowmasters. I think I want to be the aggressor here because our opponent has got 2 Ancient Tombs and a Spire of Industry in their mana base. So, and Urza's Saga. Feels like the main thing we've lost to today is Urza's Saga. And we don't have Wastelands in our deck, and it's absolutely killing me. Alright, let's play an unblockable creature. That's always nice. Are we attacking with our Orc Army token, or are we going to save this? No, I think we don't attack with this. Our plan is to beat them down with the Voidwalker to the point where we can dismember the construct that's holding the Shadow Spear. The turn they're relying on that for the life. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so we can hit one of them. Okay, not a great card. In with a Dauthi Voidwalker. I've taken 2 to make this. We can dismember this now. There's no point reducing our life total because we can't even cast like their shadow. Oh, they're a Force of Will deck as well. Alright, did not see that coming, truth be told. Our opponent's now on 4, but we're probably going to get hit by a Shadow Spear this turn. The fact that we have 5 dead cards in hand is just the absolute rinsing of the chalice there for us. Alright, so there's no point blocking this, it's got trample anyway. Sheoldred's Edict wouldn't be the worst. Another Death Shadow. Anything good in their exile? We can play an Urza Saga of our very own, but I don't really think that's going to help here. We attack for 3. We take 1 more hit. Okay, we're dead this game. I just want to see a few more cards from our opponent's deck because this is a bit of an unusual looking build. You don't see a lot of patchwork automatons, but it's a pretty good card. I like it. Thoughtcast. We have Orcish Bowmasters. So we can ping 1 on this, 1 on our opponent. Now obviously they're going to gain a boatload of life this turn. So they don't really care about this inconsequential pinging. There's another artifact. Here's a big 8/8 coming our way. I think we just say no to that. Just let it hit us. And now what? Another 1-drop. 7 1-mana spells in our hand. Yuck. We could draw 2 cards with our Dauthi Voidwalker, which I think we have to do here. Let's draw 2 cards. We found a 3/2. What does that do? Nothing here. So we play the 3/2 out. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can trade with this. Okay. It just takes all of our resources. I guess we'll get rid of a Dark Ritual. It's not really... No, we'll get rid of another Dark Ritual, sure. Send in the big boy. It should have attacked with both their creatures, in my opinion. Because we need to soak up the damage from this. I guess they're worried about removal spells. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're all going to die. But we're going to take out the construct. And take 1 damage here. So an attack with a Patchwork Automaton, then we would have lost. So we've sort of bought ourselves a little bit of time here. Our opponent is now over 22 life. The old Thought Monitor, that's a strong one, isn't it? Like, even if we did have a Bowmasters, they would still be playing this Thought Monitor because the amount of power they get from card draw and pumping their automaton that they're going to stick the spear on is just immense. Alright. So sort of a more aggressive take on 8 cast here with Patchwork Automatons. A grief. Don't want to see more cards of our opponent's hand, but we show them a grief. We're playing black. They have to assume we're playing grief. And we have to assume we're playing Thoughtseize. So let's just have a look at their hand before we scoop, so we can get a bit more information about what our opponent's playing. Okay, nothing that we weren't expecting. Okay, so another matchup where we're looking for our 4 Null Rods to do a decent chunk of work here. Plague Engineer on Construct is probably okay. Plague Engineer on Thopter, also probably okay. I don't mind those things. The Opposition Agent is only affecting the search on Urza Saga, nothing else. How worried about that are we? I don't know if that's our real fight that we're picking there. God, I so wish we had Wastelands in our deck. Yuck. I think we're going to remove these Thoughtseizes. Our opponent just draws so many cards. And they have Chalice. So, oh yeah, we don't want Death Shadow in our deck because that's just a thing that is no good. I think we want another removal spell for things like Emery or whatever. And then we have 3 slots to fill. We could have some Thoughtseizes. We could have some Oppo Agents. Or we could just have some Extractions. I think on the play, let's try 3 Thoughtseize back in. Yuck. Okay, I'll keep this. What are we getting rid of? Land, land, land. Do we think we can draw another land? It's not outside the realms of possibility that we draw a land in a few turns, is it? So I think we probably ship the Agadeem's Awakening here. And high roll. Because our deck is somewhat flawed, so we need to kind of get a little bit lucky. So let's high roll to try and get there. Chalice of the Void, Force of Will, Mishra's Bauble. I guess Chalice of the Void can go. Because I would like to not have 7 spells in my hand I can't cast. There's an Urza Saga from our opponent. Yeah, they're just going to play the Urza Saga game. It's probably going to be good. A Null Rod. They're probably going to crack their bauble in response. Right, they draw a blue card. Thought Monitor. Sure. Okay. So they have to play out the Ancient Tomb here. I don't think they're cracking a bauble here. A Swamp, like we drew it up. Let's have a Plague Engineer. We know 2 of the cards in our opponent's hand here. Yep. So here comes a Construct token. And we're going to see another Construct token. I'm going to see another artifact come into play. Then they're going to play a Seat of the Synod. And they're going to be making some large gentlemen to be all up in our business. There is a Seat of the Synod. We will block here. We just need to clear these as best we can. We have a Reanimate. We have a Dismember. We have another Plague Engineer. I think I'd rather reanimate this one and hold up some Dismember action. I think the Patchwork Automaton is in a construct. Pretty sure it is. It's possible we should have named Thopter instead. A Thoughtcast, sure. Into our 2 open black mana. No fear. There's a Mox Opal. The next one they play, I think we dismember this. The next time they play an artifact, or if they go to equip here. It's a Kappa Cannoneer. Yikes. It is. Disgusting. It's got Ward 4, so we're not killing this. We will kill this though. So we'll take out this construct, and now we're just looking for a Sheoldred's Edict to kill this. This is a Turtle Warrior. Not necessarily the creature types you would expect. Don't really want to name Warrior with our Plague Engineer. But we will go to attacks here, because I don't think they want to block our Plague Engineer. It has Death Touch. Do we think that shrinking the size of this Kappa Cannoneer is going to make a difference? I'm not really convinced that it will. We'll name Thopter for the purposes of things like Psi. And I think we're playing this tapped. And we're just hoping that they either can't play artifacts or they don't have anything else and we can draw a Sheoldred's Edict next turn. Alright, that's not an artifact. Just feels like it's going to be one though. A Chalice for 1, sure. So their guy gets bigger, it's unblockable. They're going to equip a Shadow Spear onto it so we can't race. Yep. We're getting smoked out here. I guess we hope that our opponent doesn't have an artifact here. Put one on Turtle. Should probably be on Construct. But this allows us to block this turn and take less damage if they don't play an artifact. If they play an artifact, we die. Ooh, no artifact. Interesting. Ooh. We get to play a little bit more magic. That's exciting. Let's see what they're working with over there. Metallic Rebuke. No, we will not pay because we can't. Right, so we go to attacks here. Send in 2 guys. Alright, can our opponent brick on an artifact again? It's unlikely. It's very unlikely. Not impossible. An island. I think they might have slammed it if they had it. Alright. Another turn to draw Sheoldred's Edict. Come on, deck. You got 4 of them in there. Oh, yikes. I don't think we get to get lucky again. Surely not. Right, we'll play the land out because it means we might be able to double spell next turn. But we're just trying to dodge an artifact coming off of the top of our opponent's deck. We have a pause. Alright, they're going for an attack now. To block this, they're going to gain some life here. But they're going to lose their creature. We could draw a card here if we want to. Is 1 life relevant? Probably not. Let's have a card. Let's be greedy. Oh, they got Bowmasters. No. If they had Bowmasters, they would have used it already. Okay, we have a Sheoldred's Edict. Maybe we can get there. Sheoldred's Edict keeping us safe, hopefully. Metallic Rebuke. Or just a hard cast Force of Will. Sure. I don't mind that at the end of the day. That stops them dying next turn. But Thopters and Constructs not doing anything here. Oh, we're getting another turn. Incredible stuff. Both of these creatures are lethal. I'd rather hold up the Sheoldred's Edict than deploy the Grief. A Thought Cast, sure. Somehow. I put in Brick for so many turns. Yikes. How do you feel about Thoughtseizes on the play? A lot less excited by them, to be honest. I think I would rather have some Oppo agents instead. On the draw, sorry. Chalice on 1, going to be good against us here. If we keep this hand. But our hand is pretty solid. We have 2 draws to draw a land if they don't chalice us. Okay. There's a Saga. Once again, I am asking you, where are my wastelands in my deck? Why have I misbuilt it without wastelands? Patchwork Automaton. Okay. We're growing this. We do get to kill this when we want to with the Sheoldred's Edict. We just hope they don't have an Ancient Tomb in hand as well. That'd be really annoying. Right, so we drew a swamp. That's good news. We can deploy a Hymn to Tourach or a Null Rod. So we could Hymn to Tourach and try and find something to reanimate from our opponent. Or we could just jam this Null Rod right now and just say, can you beat Null Rod? Or we could play this Plague Engineer who can trade with the Patchwork Automaton and then get to work with the Null Rod later. Genuinely a tricky choice. I think we want the Plague Engineer, weirdly. That's a more mana efficient play as well. But we can just trade with this ward creature and then try and lock things up using the Sheoldred's Edict and Null Rod. Right. I suspect our opponent does have an Ancient Tomb here. That would be the expected thing. Yep, there it is. Chalice of the Void for 1. That cuts off 1 card in our hand. But they're not making a construct token this turn. I would happily trade here if they offer it. I don't think they will. Oh, they are offering to trade. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. So our Null Rod should be pretty safe here. They're going to pop all their baubles in response. Unless they just want to have a big construct. So we've got 3 castable spells in our hand. One of them has diminishing returns as the game goes on, and that's the Hymn to Tourach. So seen our Sheoldred's Edict. So now we can answer their construct. Our build doesn't also have anything like a Sheoldred to just have like a big end game thing that just wins the game, because you're trying to play with these Death Shadows to be that, but the Death Shadows are terrible. Alright, opponent, are you going to make a construct here? Wonder what they'll find. Yep, so they're making a construct. I think it's just a thing to make their construct bigger is what they're finding at the end of the day. We found a Moxo Pool, so if they can deal with our Null Rod, they get to shut some stuff off. They get to cast some spells and things and have a better time. Another Sheoldred's Edict. Our opponent has 3 cards in hand. Do you want to use our life total as a resource, or do you want to just nail this guy while we can? I think I want to just try and dismember this. Alright, our opponent has an Ancient Tomb and no other mana sources. They have Patchwork Automatons in their deck, but we can Sheoldred's Edict them away. They have Kappa Cannoneers in their deck that we can do the same to. There's a Kappa Cannoneer. We do have a Sheoldred Edict. That's why we use the Dismember on that, because we'd rather save this for the big ward guys that we know they're packing. We could jam a Dauthi Voidwalker first to get our own Kappa Cannoneer, but I think that's a bit greedy. Let's just try and say no, because if this gets countered, then we need another turn to play the next one. Then we just keep answering threats, and then eventually we'll deploy our own. If we get any window where our opponent doesn't commit anything to the board. Very rude tapping all your lands for mana when I've gone so much to make that they can't tap. We just see another one. There's a Sigh. This is another Kappa Cannoneer. Okay. Well, we have the answer. Can you just have a turn off opponent? Alright, they're drawing some cards, but they don't have great draws. So maybe we can get there. Right, they're playing out the bauble. If they keep cards in hand, I'm inclined to Hymn to Tourach while it's still good. Just clear the hand out of spells here. Either Spellbomb and Ottawara. Interesting they kept the Ottawara in hand. We can't cast the Reanimate because of the Chalice, so we pass. Next turn we have the options of Opposition Agent and Dauthi Voidwalker. I live in fear of our opponent drawing another Kappa Cannoneer. Or, oh, they got another Kappa Cannoneer. What is this? What is this game? That's quite the draw, opponent. Orcish Bowmasters. That's not really the one. I think we play out the Opposition Agent first, so then we're more likely to double spell. And we might as well play out now. So if our opponent attacks us for 5, we can then clap back for 3. If they miss artifacts, we can also block with our Bowmasters on 1 turn. We saw them missing quite a lot last time. We have 2 more Sheoldred's Edict in the deck. They can answer this Kappa Cannoneer. I will take 5 here. It's a 4-turn clock. We also have a 4-turn clock, but we've got additional bodies to go with it. We didn't draw the land we wanted. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. Is this worth griefing, or do you want to maybe hold on to this as the body? So we're going to go to attacks first. Okay. I think we are going to try and use our Bowmasters to gain us... Oh, no. That's so bad for us. Alright. So we need to take the block here because we're not going to get another chance to block. Puts them to 8. So we go to blocks here. The army goes underneath. Saves us some damage. Agadeem's Awakening. So you can play the grief. That costs us 3 life, which is huge. So I think we have to just play this Dauthi Voidwalker. Then we bash for 4. We play this tapped. And then we have a 3 power unblockable. If they keep 1 guy back, we come in for 4 damage next turn. So they need to keep 2 guys back this turn or they die. But if they keep 2 guys back, they take 3 and go to 1. And then they're dead regardless. Alright. We managed to sneak in with a cheeky 2-3. Not bad, considering our deck was fundamentally flawed in multiple ways. So I like to do experiments on the channel, and some of them don't work. And we pushed the limits, like I said at the start, we were trying to push the limits of what we could do. And it kind of went a bit wrong. But I feel we were, you know, somewhat unlucky in some of the matchups. But again, I think the deck doesn't really deserve better than a 2-3 anyway. So I think we got a little bit lucky in that last round. So that's more than makes up for the times we got a little bit unlucky before. And 2-3 is a respectable result for a deck that is fundamentally flawed. Let's talk about why it's flawed. So, part of the problem we have here is the Death Shadow is just not something we really want here. So let's move these over here and move the dead cards out. So the Death Shadow here, this card did not feel useful. We did have one game where it was a big guy and was doing stuff a little bit, but most of the time it was kind of blank. Death Shadow decks, they have a bunch of lands that give them life loss for Death Shadow if they want it. They also have Grease to pitch it to sometimes. But more importantly than that, they have Brainstorm and Ponder. So if they ponder and they see one and they don't want it, they bury it. If you have a Brainstorm, you can throw it back. So it's far less of a liability in a proper blue-black Shadow deck than it is here. So the experiment for Shadow did not work, which is sad, but you know, it's worth testing out. Then we go to our mana base. Because we're running Shadow, we're running these Agadeem's Awakening, and they caused us some issues. But what we also had issue-wise was we were playing 16 lands here and 4 Dark Rituals, and sometimes you need to cast a 3-drop, and that just doesn't happen that easily. The Trolls were supposed to help with that, and they did a little bit, but not enough. So there's definitely a problem with the amount of lands we have in our deck. However, we could remedy this, because there was another problem we experienced all league long, and that was the fact that we lacked Wasteland. We really needed Wasteland repeatedly, and it would have made a huge amount of difference, whereas we sometimes end up with some dead cards in hand. Things like our Hymns of Tourach weren't that great sometimes, and maybe we had too many copies of the Troll and the Reanimate because they kept coming up and not being the best. Although 8 enablers for our Reanimate is quite a lot, so maybe it should be fine. In a previous league on the channel, I ran a different mono black list that was not trying to do cutesy things with Shadow and stuff. We just played the good mono black beatdown cards. That list I ran before, it ran 21 lands, including wastelands. And it also had 3 Chrome Mox. So we're obviously a very different order of stuff we're playing here. It did have Grief Reanimate, but only had 3 Reanimates. But it didn't have the Troll. So I think we don't need 21 lands and 3 Chrome Moxes if we have Trolls. I think just having some Trolls instead of those Chrome Moxes we were playing might be good. It would be slower, but by not having the Chrome Moxes. But I think it's probably worthwhile. Alternatively, you can trim some Dark Rituals for Chrome Moxes, depending on which you prefer. I don't necessarily think you need both. So how would I fix this deck? Honestly, I don't think I would. I don't think MONOBLACK Shadow is where you want to be. I think you can splash whatever colour you want with Shadow, but the whole idea of your mana base, your fetch lands getting you mana fixing dual lands that also grow your Shadow and enable it is just really good. Now we could play just whatever lands you want, but we kind of want the joy of having the non-basics. That's the whole thing about playing a mono-coloured deck, is that you get a much more sturdy mana base. Also, let's just move this along a little bit here and grab these out. So we also had these Agadeem's Awakenings here. And they cost us deep in the purse, I would say, because they were wastelanded. The 3 life wasn't always something we want to pay. In fact, hardly ever, because the Death Shadow was so bad. So rather than trying to fix this deck, I think we're just going to take another look at the mono-black deck I played the other day and apply some learning from here to that deck. So here is the deck we played the other day. And this deck, I think, was a 4-1. I can't remember now. It was quite a while back in terms of the amount of leagues I play. But this list was quite successful. And as you can see, we have 3 Reanimates instead of going whole hog. And we have the 4 Griefs, because Griefs are good early, good late. Well, they're okay late, but you know, they're still fine for 4 mana. And again, we have these 2 Tourachs here. So what I would suggest here is taking what we've learned from the other one. We don't want to mess around with any Death Shadow things, but we do want Troll. We never really got to do the Troll thing, but I think we do want them. And the slots in here that I think are flexible are these ones. These 9 cards are very flexible for us. So I think we want some sort of mana related spells here, right? So the Chrome Moxes could become Trolls. And then you get 6 cards to mess around with. So we could have another Reanimate. And then we already have the 4 Sheoldred's Edict. So maybe these 4 cards. So our 4 Dark Rituals could become Troll and Reanimate if we wanted them. Just make this a little bit of a different size for this. All right. So these Dark Rituals could become 3 Trolls and a Reanimate. And then if we wanted to keep the Chrome Moxes, we could, because we've got some pretty good turn 2 plays to hammer out, but not necessarily that much in the realm of 3 drops. So I think the Chrome Mox is arguably better for us than the Dark Ritual is. However, we are exposing ourselves a little bit with the Chrome Moxes here. Maybe we could try and find some more 1-drops to play. If we could find a good 1-drop to slot in here, then we could smash these out for 4 1-drops of a different variety. Have the Troll plan going on. Because Troll, Grief, Reanimate, Thoughtseize, that's a reasonable amount of turn 1 plays. But if we could find another card as well, maybe have, like, instead of trying to ramp some stuff out, we can just play kind of fair Magic, but like black D&T basically, where all of our creatures do something oppressive to the game state. We can just kind of grind through a bit that way. So that's something I think of. Because Chrome Mox doesn't play amazingly well with Null Rods. So maybe these should be, if you want the Chrome Moxes maybe, or want the mana acceleration, it should be Dark Rituals. And the Dark Rituals do help you cast Sheoldred early. So maybe I'm wrong in it. So we want the 4 Dark Rituals in the deck. Sorry, I'm just playing around a little bit here, but hopefully it's interesting to you. And then these 3 can be Trolls. And then we have a Reanimate here. And then this can be a slot of your choice, really. So if we put this up in the Reanimate pile. So then we have one little slot to play around with and flex. I think this deck could probably run another land if it wanted, like a special land without worrying too much because we've got so many basics here. But it's a case of what land do you run, like Cabal Pit or just another Locthwain or Hive of the Eye Tyrant. There are options for sure, but I do like just having a bunch of swamps that you can rely on. Maybe Palantir. Maybe one Palantir here. So you've got 5 things to ramp out on turn 1 with a Dark Ritual. Because Palantir does some real work. And we've got some 4 costs here, so there's a real cost for our opponent taking them. Alternatively, we could just have some more removal. But I think just having the 4 Sheoldred's Edict and then all these sort of oppressive creatures is a better place to be. Not playing the Chrome Mox means you're a lot less likely to have turn 1 Sheoldred, but that's not exactly what our deck is all about anyway. Alright, I think we've broke this one down quite a lot. I'm also not sure we want ley lines in the sideboard as well. But this is a deck that I would build from rather than the one that we played today, which is the Shadow one. So it was a failed experiment, but experiments are good. You don't get better at Magic or learn new stuff and innovate if you don't try stuff. And we tried this pushing to the extremes that we could, and it failed quite spectacularly in a lot of ways, but we did manage to get a 2-3 with it, which, considering we knew it was a failure quite early on in the league, I'm not too upset with. Alright, we are done for today. If you would like one of your experiments on the channel, by all means get in touch with me and submit a donation deck. You can do that either via the Discord, which is linked below, or just leave a comment on the video and I'll get back to you. Alright, like, subscribe, comment, check out my Patreon, do all these things to help me. I really appreciate it if you do. And just keep watching and playing Legacy because it's great. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.